So before I go on with my message, I want to take this time to thank God. Like I said in our community prayer time, I just came back from football camp. I have been blessed, opportunity to coach at Marana High School, being a defensive coordinator for the younger teams, but also coaching the linebackers on the varsity level. Under the leadership of Coach Stewart and Coach Incarelli and the rest of our coaching staff, we took a group of kids, 180 of them, up to Shadow Pines up in, how do you say the? Heber, there it is. I called it Herbert this whole time. Very beautiful town. A lot of pine trees, very cool weather. I miss the weather. It was like 50 at night, and during the day it's like 70, 75. But it was a great time. A great time to be with the coaches, and it's not easy, 180 of these young high schoolers, but it's a special privilege, not only to be a pastor, but to be a coach, because we coach at Marana that it's more than football. Hopefully we can instill something in these young men. Now, not everybody's going to go to D1 college or D2, D3, but hopefully they can be young men, great young men in our communities, be good brothers, fathers one day, and just great men in society. So I thank God for that great opportunity. I got back last night about 10:30. It was a very long drive. But I thank God that I'm back. And thank you all for having me this morning. I know I don't really come here that often, but every chance I do get to come here in the Magee campus, I thank God. And I also want to thank each and every one of you, always holding our other campus in your prayers. There was a lot of change that has been going on. We moved to the elementary school, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for your prayers. And everything is going good at Coyote Trail, our new home, and thanks, glory be to God. So grace, like our message this morning with our children, very simple. It's an unearned gift given by God for you and I. But this morning, I want us to take a look at Corinth, the city of Corinth. Very wealthy city, influential Greek city. This church was a very growing and a thriving city, but deeply flawed. Corinth struggled with pride. We know in the last few weeks that there was a bunch of division in this church. We know that there's a lot of spiritual immaturity. Some in this church questioned Paul's authority because he wasn't flashy or he wasn't that impressive. Paul suffered. At times, Paul looked very weak. And yet, Paul responds with a message that turns everything around. God's power is made perfect in weakness. God's power is made perfect in weakness. So this morning, let's explore strength through the cracks. Strength through the cracks. The world that we live in is a world obsessed with power, obsessed with perfection. And this morning, Scripture reminds us that God often works through what is broken. That the cracks in our lives are the very places His light shines through. Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us." You and I are like these clay jars. We're very ordinary, but we're breakable. imperfect. But God has placed within us His treasure. God has placed within us that gift, His Spirit, His love, His grace. And it's not, despite our weakness, that He uses us, but it's through our weakness. As Paul continues in verse 8 and 9, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. This isn't a denial of pain. Paul doesn't pretend suffering doesn't exist. Suffering is real, right? We go through it every day. But Paul shows us that even through the hardship, even through the storms of life, God's power is what sustains us. We go down to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Paul opens up the chapter about painful struggle. A thorn in the flesh. And in that passage, 3 times, he pleads with God to take it away. Take it away, God. But here's how God responds. A soft whisper. My grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in your weakness. Paul doesn't get healing. He doesn't get the healing right away. But he gets something much more better. He gets grace. He gets the gift. And he learns a powerful truth. For that when I am weak, then I am strong. That's not easy to accept in the world that glorifies strength. It's not easy for a country that we live in that glorifies control. It's not easy when people ask us to be perfect, or perfection is what always is needed. But in God's kingdom, weakness is not a barrier. It's a bridge to a deeper grace. I say this a lot at the Sanctuary campus, and I encourage Christians. When I went to seminary for my bachelor's back in Tonga, I really beat myself up, really wanting to be that perfect Christian, wanting to follow all the rules. I read my scriptures, I did my fasting, and I wanted to be that perfect Christian. And sometimes as Christians, we have that idea in our minds that having to follow Christ or being a Christian, we have to have a checklist. Am I right? That unless we get everything right, we somehow don't measure up. That if we mess up, we must not be a good Christian. Let me be clear. I'm not saying for us to throw out all the commandments that God's given to us or live a careless life. But what I am saying is this. God's grace is not reserved for those who get it all right. His grace is for the broken. God's grace is for the weary. God's grace is for the ones still struggling to get back in rhythm. Following Christ isn't about being flawless, but it's about being faithful. We will fall short of His love. We will fall short of God's grace every day of our lives. We will miss the mark. We will have cracks in the jars that we hold. But in those cracks, in our weaknesses, His strength shines bright. So no, you're not expected to be perfect. So don't beat yourself up. But we as Christians are called to remain faithful. Keep reading your scripture. Keep on praying. Keep on repenting. Keep coming back to the Father again and again. Because grace isn't earned, it is given. And it's in our most imperfect places that God does His most perfect work in our lives. I want to end my sermon with a story from the islands of Hawaii. In the 1800s, the islands of Hawaii were plagued by a disease called leprosy. People with leprosy and even the community as a whole in Hawaii feared. These people that caught the disease were rejected and sent into exile on a remote island called Molokai. And on Molokai, on the north shore, south end of the island, they were sent to a settlement called Kalaupapa. Kalaupapa is where these people were abandoned. Kalaupapa is where these people were cut off from the world. No one wanted to see them. No one wanted to visit them. Even at times, religious leaders that were called to Kalaupapa turned it down. Until one religious leader decided to take up the call, Father Damien. Father Damien of Belgium was a priest. He volunteered his time to go to Molokai. He chose to live among the lepers, not as a distant helper, but as one of them. He bandaged wounds, built homes. He even dug graves for these lepers. He celebrated Mass and gave these lepers a proper burial. He held their hands when no one else would. And after 12 years of serving, he contracted the leprosy himself. A lot of you may ask, why do I bring this story in context of Corinthians and our scripture with Paul? It says that in his diary that Father Damien felt like he wasn't good enough for the task. But as he went there to Kalaupapa province, he noticed and realized that he is called for this mission through God's grace. His suffering didn't weaken his ministry in Kalaupapa. It depended. And it deepened his wisdom and his knowledge through the gospel. He became a cracked vessel, but through those cracks, the love of Christ poured out on Kalaupapa. This is one of the poems, of many poems that's hidden in the museum on Molokai. And it says, he came where no one wanted to go, to a place the world had cast below, where flesh decayed and hope was thin. Father Damien brought love from Christ within. Among the outcasts, he made his place, not as a hero, but a vessel of grace. He touched their wounds, he bore their pain, and found in loss an eternal gain. He didn't preach from heights above. He lived among with fierce, with deep love. And when disease marked his own skin, He said, we lepers, and walked within. Yet, shining bright with holy fire and heaven's light, his strength was not his own to keep. It flowed through scars and ran down deep. So may we live as he once did, poured out and broken for the love of God and the people of Kalaupapa. So I ask you, brothers and sisters of St. Mark's, where are the cracks in your life? Where do you feel weak? Where do you feel uncertain or not good enough? Let God shine through those cracks. You don't need to be flawless to be faithful. You don't need to be strong to serve as a Christian. You just need to be willing to let grace fill your heart. And when it fills your heart, you have the opportunity to shine through. Like Paul, may your lives be cracked jars that carry the treasure of God's love to a broken world that we live in. To finish up my sermon, me and my family will sing a song. This song is called Still, from Hillsongs. Anybody know that song? But we will sing it in the Tongan language, but this is the translated version of that song. Hide me now under your wings, cover me with your mighty hand. When the oceans rise and the thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still and know that you are God. Through God's grace, any storms in our lives, we can handle it because of his grace and his love.